All right. So of course we're in the latest version of FSD beta, and one of the things I want to check out is the neighborhoods. One of the problems that I've had in the past, and many people have had in the past, is it tends to take the center of the road, if there is no center divide, painted on the road. Looks like that may have been taken care of this time around. It's favoring the center, but it's not exactly directly down the center of the road. So that is an improvement alone right here. And let's see how it does with these cars coming up on the right. Doing pretty good, gives us a good distance here. There's a car coming, oncoming traffic here, but he's actually heading to the side of the road. The car did slow down in that situation. It was a little iffy on what that truck was going to do, so it decided to slow down. So I think that was a safe bet. I think I personally probably would have kept my current speed. All right, we do have a center divide painted in the road here, so now it's a little bit more to the right side. So that tends to happen. When we have the lines painted on the road, it does do better on staying on the right side of the road. But when there are no lines on the center of the road, then it favors a little bit more to the center. But as mentioned, it is doing better in not just sticking to the exact very center of the road. 25 miles per hour is the speed limit here. I've got it set to 30. I think I'm going to go ahead and bump it up to 35 so we can get ourselves up to the first stop sign. Let me go ahead and put this in. Oops, there we go. We'll put this in full screen mode. And so when I drove this for the first time, I took this to work, which I'm driving to work usually at about 3:30 in the morning. So there's usually no traffic on the road. But this is one of the first intersections coming up here that I tested, and it failed miserably. It went straight through the red light. Now this is a very weird intersection, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about once we get to it. Now this is just a regular stop sign. We do have a right and left oncoming traffic, so it's going to check. We do have that line right there, which is new, and it's having some hesitation. Not a big fan of that. I'm going to go ahead and push the camera for that. That just wasn't very smooth at all. All right, so this is where things are tricky. So what I'm going to do is see what happens. You need to pull out and get on the very left side here so we can make a left turn, which is what we're going to need to do. So let's see what it does here. Now, before it's gone straight through. So let's see what it decides. It's kind of stopping. I'm going to have to make sure I'm ready to stop because it will probably go through. Now, the main concern that I have is I may not be on the sensor here. Looks like, no, I need to stop. There's too much traffic. There's too much going on. This is a failed. And now we're going. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not in FSD beta right now. I've got to get on traffic. So this intersection, it had done better before the first time, but bottom line, it just can't handle that intersection. And unless this is an intersection that they just take on personally and try to get this working properly, honestly, unless they do look at this as one individual case, I don't think FSD beta is going to be able to handle that intersection ever, unless, as I mentioned, they do something and look at this particular case and adjust the software accordingly to that type of intersection. But at this point, it is. I just don't know if it's ever going to get better. It was creeping out into the intersection, and I didn't know if he was going to go or not. It had activated the sensor, so that's good. But this morning, when there was no traffic, it was stopped, but it hadn't activated the sensor, so it was never going to turn green. So it's a very tricky intersection, and we'll see what happens here. So let's take it down this road here. And You know, here's another thing. This has been the last few versions. There is a stop sign at a park in the parking lot here. I'm going to show you what's going to start to happen. We're at 45. We're slowing down. We're slowing down. If you look right to the right there at that, it's slowing down like it's going to make a complete stop. See, there's a stop sign right over there. It, for some reason, thinks it's a 4-way stop or something, but every time for the last 2 generations of the beta software, or at least versions, I've had to put my foot on the accelerator so it wouldn't come to a complete stop. And it will come to a complete stop. I've done it early in the morning when no one's around, and it actually stops like it's going at a stop sign, and then it goes. So that's a little frustrating. There's another spot in town that it does that as well. And same situation. There's a stop sign in the parking lot going onto the street. And I don't know if it can't see it. It's not seeing it on visualizations. But for some reason, it may think it's a stop sign for us as well. I don't know. But it's another thing that needs to be fixed. I think I've heard a couple of other people have had that issue as well. So we'll see what happens with that. We're at stop sign here, or stop light. Wow, it's taking a while. Oh, someone must have crossed the street. So from a standpoint of GPS, I typically on my own would take a right here and then get onto the street that we're about to turn onto. This is just a slight shortcut going to that right there, but I'm just going to go ahead and let the car do its thing here. It's not a big deal, but in the past this has been a very dicey turn, and let's see how it handles it now. Whoa, okay, very smooth, but really hitting that accelerator fast. Let's see how it does with this pedestrian. Got someone taking her own sweet time getting across the street, but it's doing fine. A little more aggressive than I thought it would be. I mean, it usually stops a lot more abruptly with pedestrians. So nice, smooth stop up to the pedestrian. I never felt like we were going to hit the pedestrian. And usually it waits until the pedestrian is on the sidewalk before it moves. In this case, it got really aggressive. And once the person got out of the way, which again, not a big deal, but it actually veered to the left a little bit to get around that pedestrian. So I'm a little surprised that it was that aggressive with the pedestrians. But nonetheless, I think it handled it very well. This is a turn that in the previous version, it would just, the steering wheel would get jerky. It wouldn't get into the right lane to turn right. It was just touch and go. I mean, you just never knew. Now with this version, it's doing a beautiful job, and it's done a beautiful job every time on this turn here. Nice and smooth, good acceleration, no jerky movements of the steering wheel. So that was a really, really good turn. Now here's a pedestrian on the sidewalk. It's slowing down. I think it's slowing down because of the turn, because the pedestrian's on the sidewalk, so that's not a big issue here. Now we're coming up here, just like that on the highway, we are going to go from 1 lane to 2 lanes. Sometimes it has a hard time picking that lane, either left or right. Let's see what it does here. So it put on the turn signal, get into the right lane, which eventually it should, and it's always done in the past. We're gonna have to get into the left lane to go straight at the upcoming traffic signal. So coming up here, maybe sometime around or just before this turn, it is going to get into the left lane. So let's see if it does that. Okay, it's not doing it just yet. But by the way, very smooth right now. Staying in its lane, good acceleration. As it goes around these turns here, it's very smooth. All right, now it's getting into the left lane. Very smooth, no stopping, no slowing down, doing a great job here. Staying in its lane beautifully here, 45 miles per hour. So we are going to get up to the intersection here, and we are going to have to get immediately, once we cross the intersection, we have to immediately get into the right lane. So it will change lanes in the intersection. Now, in the state of California, that's legal as long as it's safe. And it will be safe to do that because the people in the right lane have to turn right. You can see that sign, it says right lane must turn right. So, since nobody will be coming in straight on the right lane, it will be safe for us to basically go from this left lane into the right lane after we cross the intersection. But we'll have to wait for it to turn green and see what happens. Now there's a biker here, and so this should be interesting because we are going to have to get in the right lane. So it will either go faster than him and pull ahead of him or pull behind him. Let's see what happens. It got ahead of him and oh my gosh, I got to be honest with you, that was a little aggressive. It's being more aggressive with pedestrians than I've ever seen it. Now it should be able to turn right here. Let's see if it does. It's not. I'm going to go ahead and nudge it because it's legal to turn right at a stoplight. All right. Now I have to keep my foot on the accelerator for a while before it'll actually go. Now it's obviously going to stop here at this traffic signal. So as we make this left turn past this traffic light, this has been an issue, an ongoing issue. Right now with this version, it doesn't want to cross the double yellow line. You see what it's doing? It's going past that double yellow line and then making the left turn. In previous versions, it's actually gone over that double yellow line. So it just depends on the version, but that's, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it certainly would save time if it would go over the double yellow line. All right, we're at my destination. Let's take it back home and see how it does. We are going. I'm going to go ahead and we are in a parking lot at a stop sign. Let's see if it'll pull out of this parking lot. Okay, I'm in FSD beta. We're at a stop sign. It's saying it wants to turn right. That's wrong. All right, so parking lots are usually still not most friendly to FSD beta, so we're just going to stick to the streets for now. Let's engage FSD beta. All right, let me go ahead and put it on full screen here and get going. Now at this stop sign, what's been happening in the past and still happens is the right lane as we turn into this road is a right turn lane. Now we don't need to turn right, we need to go straight. So the problem is, you see, it gets kind of jerky. Now it's like, okay, now I need to get into the right lane or to the left there. So that was some pretty jerky wheel movements there. This version of FSD beta is known for being much smoother, but it does certainly still have its moments. So that was definitely, you know, it's just, it doesn't handle some of those things quite well. So again, turning right on this, we needed to go straight, but the very right lane is right turn only. Once it figures that out, it then makes its way into the left lane here, or the lane we're in now. The problem with that is it's a very short distance. And sometimes I end up getting into that lane a little wonky. It's not straight into the lane. Now, we don't have to be in the left lane here. Now, what's going to happen too, and this is also frustrating, we're turning left, it's getting into the left turn lane. I don't need to be in the left turn lane. Oh, you know what? That was the first time that's happened in a long time. It didn't get into the left turn lane and it went right into this lane that we're in now. That was awesome, and I'm really happy about that. Now, will it do that again? I don't know. I think I want to stop the recording here and try that again and see how it does. So stay tuned. Okay, stoplight, you know, just like last time, I'm going to see if it'll get out of this parking lot okay. Okay, this time it actually turned left. Last time, as you know, it went right, so it's, yeah, you never know. Okay, we're making a right turn at the stop sign, and as like last time, it'll most likely first start in the far right, which is a right turn only, and then it will get into the next lane over. Let's see what happens. We're gonna wait for this car to go. There's no other cars coming on the left. Creeping forward. Here we are going into the right lane here. See, that's no good. Now it realizes, oh, I need to get into the left lane. Now see how it takes its time. And now we are in this lane a little wonky, as I mentioned before. So that's a little frustrating. Not a big fan of that. I'd like to see an improvement in that. Now what's going to happen is it's going to turn left up here. This car is going to be in the way on the left side. So actually, for the first time in a long time, it's actually going to make a left turn in the right lane here. So I'm not going to be able to kind of prove or show how it gets into that left lane here. But you can see, handling this turn beautifully. A left turn in the right lane did very well, very smooth, good acceleration. Really happy with the way it performed that. Here comes this motorcycle on this side. Looks like that one's coming in as well. Looks like maybe they're about to make a right turn here. So now, I haven't seen this happen very often in the city, but it looks like it got to the left lane to get past these motorcycles. So got a little more aggressive with that lane change there, which this is the lane that we're going to need to be in anyway. So it could have been one of two things. It could have been trying to get around those motorcycles, or it could have been kind of planning for the future and getting to the left lane. However, in my experience on this route here, I've had to put the turn signal on myself to get it into the left lane, because it ends up staying in the right lane, and then it gets into a right turn only lane eventually, which then forces it to get into the left lane. So I prefer not to have to do that. So I usually make it plan ahead by just putting it on manually myself. So this road, there's usually not a lot going on. It's pretty basic. A few left and right curves here, and it handles them beautifully. Good acceleration, good movement of the wheel. Nothing, no jerky movements. So it's doing quite well here. There's a pedestrian coming across, jaywalking. It handled that well. It did not stop for that pedestrian, which is okay in this situation, because they were not posing any kind of threat at this point, or at least at that point. All right, slowing down to make this right turn here, as it typically does. It's a pretty sharp turn. Let's go ahead and put it in full screen there for you. Okay, we've got a left turn here. It's going to have to get into this left turn lane. Sometimes it hesitates to do that, but this time it's doing quite well with it. Okay. Looks like a left turn signal just turned on in the intersection over to the right there, so we've got a big line of cars coming through, so we're going to have to wait a bit. But this is a good test on making sure it's got to wait. Looks like this car is about to go. Very good. So this bus is turning right. So is that truck behind it. I want to go. But it can't see too well. There's a car there, and that was a little not safe. I'm going to go ahead and maybe. So that bus was in the way, making that left turn. It decided to go. Thank goodness the truck was turning right, but the car behind that one wasn't. And if it had decided to stop on its own for some reason, that could have been a dangerous situation. So thankfully, I did have my foot on the accelerator, so just in case I needed to go, but it did go on its own that time. And but I don't think it handled that very well. That was not a good situation. I would have gone as soon as I saw that bus turning right, because I knew the truck behind it was turning right, and it was safe to go on the right side and the left side. So again, this is that shortcut here. Okay, see, there's a stop sign. Look. There's a stop sign right there. I have to put on the accelerator because there's a truck coming in behind me, but I wanted to show you that it would have just stopped like it was coming to a four-way stop, and then it would go. All right, so here we have a stop. All right, good, that truck's turning right, so I don't have to worry about it too much. This is a little bit of a tricky intersection, can get busy at times. The left is all clear. There's a Jeep coming to the right. I don't know, that wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. I mean, it stopped there in that intersection. It was safe. It was okay to do that because there were no cars coming, but it stopped right in the middle of that intersection to wait for that Jeep to go. I don't know if it just didn't see the Jeep and decided to go before it saw the Jeep. I don't know. But not too happy with the way it handled that. Okay, traffic's a little slow in the right lane here. There's a truck ahead of us. Looks like it's getting to the left lane. Too slow. I mean, it just, see, I don't like that either. When these cars are turning right ahead of you, it slows down and stays on the brake far too long and doesn't accelerate fast enough to get by the car. And that can obviously be frustrating if you have cars behind you. They may want you to kind of get moving, but I let it go ahead and do its thing, and as I expected, it just took way too long to get on the accelerator there. Yeah, we're definitely going kind of slow here. I'm getting passed by someone on the left. We're still going about 4 or 5 miles over the speed limit, so I'm not going slow by any stretch of the imagination. But outside of that, we're handling everything quite well, staying in our lane beautifully. Of course, no turns. This is pretty much just a straightaway. We're going to be bumping that speed up another 5 miles per hour here soon. And then we'll be getting to a right turn here. Now, this is another one of those situations where you get to a stoplight. We're going to turn right, and it's going to stay in the right lane. Now, it's best to be in the left lane because the light after this, it merges into one lane. And technically, it's the right lane that is going to be ending, and the left lane continues. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this right turn here usually handles it quite well, usually not an issue. Put on its turn signal. Now see how we're in the right lane here? I'm going to keep it here. Now I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is going to be a situation where we're in the right lane. You see, as we move forward, if you look close enough, you can even see it on the visualization, or you could. Let's see if we can zoom it in here. It showed it, and it did see the arrow, but then it disappeared. So there's a truck to my left. It's actually stopping almost behind me in the left lane here. You can see it, this truck right here. So let's see here. We're going to let this car turn left first, and then it'll turn green. Now, there is a truck coming in behind me. So let's see what happens here. I'm not moving very fast. I'm not pushing the accelerator. It's going fast enough that it's not creating any kind of issues where we have to merge in front of anybody. So that's not a problem. So this time it was fine, and it worked out fine. But there are times when the people in the left lane are a little bit more aggressive, and it's got to merge in, and it creates problems. And I'm the type of driver that I'd just rather not get in that situation. If the left lane is not ending, that's the lane I'm going to want to be in. It's the people that are in the right lane that have to merge in. So I just prefer to be in that left lane. But as long as I let FSD beta do its thing, it's always going to be in that right lane. Sometimes it tends to get into this center lane here, a left turn lane here, very quickly, just way too soon, sooner than I would. So that seems to have been kind of a new thing in the past couple of versions. It didn't do that before. Of course, it still does that in this version. So it'll be interesting to see if that's something that's ongoing or not. I hate intersections like this where you have to turn left on a green light. There's no need for it. All right, not very smooth at all. So this version, for the most part, it is making left and right turns smoother. Higher percentage, let's put it that way. Most of the turns, left and right, are a lot smoother, but not 100% of them. And of course, we saw that just now with that left turn. Not sure why it was hesitant, but certainly some jerky movements with the steering wheel, and on top of that with the acceleration. We're coming up here on, and this actually, by the way, it usually handles this road pretty well. There are a lot of bends in the road, some pretty sharp bends, but it seems to handle them quite well. This left turn, haven't really had any problems with it. Sometimes if there are cars here, it hesitates. If there are cars at that stop sign, it will hesitate. But for the most part, it tends to do quite well. This is one where this road right here is 40 miles per hour. But as soon as we get up over this hill, it's going to get more residential. And it should be 25 miles per hour. Problem is there's no 25 mile an hour speed sign, limit sign. So you go from 40 to now about 25 now, right? But there's no speed limit sign. So I've got to manually do that, but it takes forever for it to lower its speed. So unfortunately, if I'm in FSD beta, I'm zipping through that street way too fast. If there's kids or any pedestrians, they kind of give me a dirty eye. So I tend to take it out of FSD beta as I start getting closer to home here. But here we are, no center line, and it's kind of hugging the center of the road, but at least it's not directly right there in the center of the road. All right, that wraps this up.